Colin?
Greetings and salutations, motorsport fans, race car lovers, and others.
Am I not others?
No, you still Gary.
Hola everybody, how you all doing? I hope you're well. I hope you had a fantastic week. I hope things have been good. I feel good.
As somebody said in a song.
I feel good.
Gary, I have mixed feelings. In that I think I'm
It is.
incredibly happy and joyous to be here with you. And all of you who are watching. I have a poignant moment in that today is the 3rd anniversary of my big brother David Hastie passing away. Doing what he loved to do, take the most, probably the bestest racing car photographs in the world. But I lost my best friend, my mentor, my big brother, one of the most amazing people I've ever known in my entire life. So this show, if I can hold it together, will be
Dedicated to
David, who's racing in the sky.
To the big man up there.
My butt, I miss you.
We're coming, brother. We're going to do a show from the stars. One day.
Gary. So, episode 42.
I just want to know why we got a plate with a knife and fork in the picture.
Because catering did an amazing job. First of all, production found a venue. This here, guys, is a sushi farm. Basically, they grow fish, and if you catch them and chow them, then that's the definition of,
So that's what the knife and fork is
of
for.
sushi. No, but we've got spears for that. That was for the toasted sami that you needed, Gary, because apparently you were starving. So
Ravished.
Great to be outside in Joburg summers, which are fantastic. It's not raining,
True.
It's magnificent, and there's something stuck in my eye, so if you just give me a moment, I'll get rid of it.
So to all of those,
Dust.
while he gets rid of what he's getting rid of, I hope you guys have been watching a lot of stuff going online, because there's been plenty. A lot of stuff coming up this weekend. We're going to be live at certain places. We're going to go live tomorrow evening. But Colin's going to tell you about that show tomorrow evening. It's a one-off special. Okay? We're going to be at a most unusual place.
Well, it's not unusual.
No, you know what's unusual about
who
it?
was that guy? It's Tom Jones. It's unusual.
Yeah, but we're going to one of these places where security could come and say, please remove your cameras, yourself, and your microphones from our establishment.
And Gary, we just say you've got one chance to get it right.
That's not nice. It's
It
family
is.
show.
I said one chance.
It's a family show. Kids are watching.
What kids? Oh, there's one kid, a fast kid.
Yeah.
All right, so Gary, strictly, let's stop talking that stuff. And
Okay, quickly. Hi there to Anthony. Nice of you to join us. Devon Duplessis. Sorry for your lost worm. That's very nice. You know what?
Yeah.
The magic thing I love about our audience, they actually care.
Yeah.
They care about a lot of things we do. They care about whether you and I are actually going to be online tomorrow night or tonight or whatever it is. They care about the type of content we bring in.
Kind of like a tight-knit group. I was going to say
That's right.
family, but sometimes it's better than family because you can choose who we're friends with.
Yeah. So just on it, I'm going to say thanks to everybody out there that's going to watch us, and those that are going to watch us a bit later because you're sitting in traffic or whatever. We really appreciate your support. Please don't stop. Please send us questions. Send us ideas. It's the only way we can make the show any better. Back to you, Baba.
On that note, I'm very happy to say that production did their job, and except for the typing, they gave me notes. So now I know what to talk about. Gary?
But you don't have Stewie's magic device with you today.
Gary, check my eyes. We're at Mug and Bean, for those of you who want to know. We're at Mug and Bean in Broadacres.
Broadacres, yeah.
On the other side of Four Ways, where they're the most fart clubs in the world. It's magnificent.
Can you spell that so people out there don't get it?
Fart.
Yeah.
It's when they fart. It's like,
You mean
who are all you, hey?
Fart.
Like, F-I-G-H-T. It's like
okay,
always.
fart.
But, like, don't come here. Don't tune me skewed. You know I know. I know my... They
Well,
always say.
you don't know who you
Okay,
know.
so there was a Brazilian 500-kilometer GT3 race in Porsches. It was absolutely fantastic. Moodley, Colbert, Maharaj in the 3.8 car, Gary, they came ninth overall. It's actually fascinating to watch because this was a race, you know, when Gary said, a couple of South Africans running in Brazilian race in GT3. I sort of didn't really take it that seriously until I did a bit of research and focused myself. Oh, Gary,
Yes.
you've had a rough day today.
It's just my time to focus.
Well, I just need to explain this to you.
Are we going to ask if there's any...
There were many things that happened today. There were
are there any big, mega, well-to-do people out there that can help me fix
There
a
were
BMW?
experiences. Oh, jeez. I said to somebody that his car's a female because it gives him so much trouble. They got upset. They accused me of being sexist. I just meant that... Anyway, I don't know what I meant. And if I've upset anybody, take a big glass of cement down your neck and harden up. So it's been an eventful day for
Yeah,
both
it
of
has.
us.
But we achieved our objective.
We did.
We got to the
There is
appointment,
news
and
afoot.
then there's news afoot.
And you know what I dig, Gary, is
that?
that when you talk to people and they share your passion about motorsport,
Yeah.
it's absolutely fantastic. Right, so they can
You were playing in Brazil.
in a Brazilian garden. Now, if you have a Brazilian lawn, is the grass shortcut or is it just like...
I don't know. We might have to ask a couple of guys from another suburb we know.
No, hold on. Those oaks who are in Tashes, China, I'm still waiting for your invite. Like, do your thing. But now, this wasn't just a race for the meek and mild. There was Ricardo Zonta. Some of you may know. He drove a Formula One car. The South African connection with Ricardo Zonta,
Is?
Gordon Murray, who
Oh,
designed
really?
the Brabham that Zonta drove.
That's, yes.
Gary, will stick with me. I've got so many different connections that come out of the woodwork. Justin Allgaier, do you know what the South African connection there is?
No?
I'm Colin. I watch Justin Allgaier in NASCAR. I love it.
Okay.
Great South African connection. Nelson Piquet Jr., do you know what the South African connection there is? His daddy drove for Brabham, designed by Gordon Murray, another South African.
Are we getting to this point where South Africans control the world of motorsport?
Did you ever watch
Or we influence it? Let's put it
Did
that
you
way.
ever
We
watch that
influence.
TV program called Pinky and the Brain?
Am I pinky?
I'm going to work that out. The thing they did was that they were, what are we going to do today, Pinky? Same thing we did yesterday. It's about world domination. South
Okay.
Africans in motorsport, I truly believe, are fantastic. Talking about world domination, Stuart Thompson
Yes.
in Dulon, he was second in the historic Formula Ford 1600,
Wasn't that this
East
big?
London?
Wasn't that this big?
organised
Wasn't
by
that-
another South
Yeah.
African.
Yeah.
That-
By
the-
Mr. Mark Willie.
She's scaling Gary's chips. Like you can't catering. They give him his chips.
There's it.
He chows half of them because he's a slow eater, and then they come to clean up, and he gets all. Gary, are you uptight about your chips disappearing?
Don't take my chips. But hang on a second. There was this big thing in East London.
Mark Woolley organised
Yeah.
a reunion of old Grand Prix cars.
yeah.
And can I tell you something? History of racing is important.
Yes.
The history of the world is important. If we don't learn from history, we are destined to repeat.
The mistakes
issues.
of the past.
Some say. So what did? Anyway, sorry, there's stuff going on inside here tonight.
Which can be like dangerous.
It's very dangerous because I've got a train of thought that sometimes goes where I want it to go, and then like these butterflies
Then
coming
that,
like,
that's one of these things. Woo!
and the
Off
next
we
thing
go.
I listened to for about 7.5 minutes
Yeah.
last night.
Yeah.
Porsche 911 around Road America, and thank you, Marshall Pruitt. Best podcast ever. Go and look at Marshall Pruitt and World of Sports Guy. It's
We'll share
Unbelievable
the link
stuff.
later, guys.
So
you can always tune in.
Are we?
Yeah, I'll
I
do it.
can't remember the link.
I'll
Gary,
do
but
it.
that was
I'll find
magnificent.
it.
So that was Stewie, and then Hulk crashes. There was a Grand Prix.
Hold on a second. Well, just come back. We were talking about an historic event that happened in South Africa.
Yeah.
Probably one of the few times outside of Goodwood that a lot of historic Grand Prix cars that drove the original East London circuit were in South Africa, and they went wham, wham, wham.
No, they went.
Okay. That's the brain speaking.
But
Pinky's still talking.
The car, one of the fascinating cars is an Alfa Romeo with a Scuderia Ferrari badge in it, because that was the beginning
Correct. Of.
of the greatest Ferrari driver in the world, who actually not retires, he moves on to another team
Oh,
because they
okay.
didn't want him. Who was the last Ferrari world champion?
The last was
Yeah.
Kimi Raikkonen.
Who was the last Ferrari, the winner of a Grand Prix? Oh, I don't know.
Kimi Raikkonen.
Who was the last, what's the other important thing in motor
No, who-
racing?
who
Pole
was-
position?
Kimi Raikkonen.
Who was the last, I don't know, when Ferrari won a world championship? Who was
No,
the last driver?
who was the last driver that won the South Africa, the World Formula One Constructors Championship? Who was the last driver to do that?
Gary, let me think hard about this. Must be Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah.
And they fire the... Now you know why Ferrari lost the world championship. Because they're... Gary, I say to you, focus.
We should be telling
Often.
them to focus.
Ferrari have got... They are unfocused AF. That's the adult abbreviation. The kids
Yes.
tell, the millennials tell me.
Yeah.
It's okay to say that.
Yeah, cool. And
Gary. Focus, China.
So,
Anyway, so that's
Kimi goes to play with an Alfa Romeo.
Ferrari B team. I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
I can't wait for that. Anyway, that's... Oh, and while they're there, Jimmy Johnson, number 48, 7 times NASCAR champion. The thing is, nobody in... when a real, true, great driver
Yeah.
is there, they don't really acknowledge him. Like, I'm not a super hot fan of Lewis Hamilton, but I still believe at the moment he's in a league of his own. He's
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. Lee Phillips will go rant for days about how magnificent it is. So Jimmy Johnson and Fernando Alonso swap cars. Depending on who you believe, look, it's a whole PR thing, and they got to raise Jimmy's profile in the rest of the world and Fernando in America, because Fernando's going with Wayne Taylor. There's another South African connection. Gary, Konica Minolta sponsor the Wayne Taylor
SA
Racing.
is connected.
Oh, and the head oak of 48 Hendrick Motorsport is also a South African. So anyway, they were close by all accounts, and Johnson got within 2/10 of Alonso. Alonso got within 4/10 of Johnson in the same car. But who knows? I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. You can have these swaps. Scotty McLaughlin, I really dug him. Is Doug the correct Doug?
Doug.
What do you call your brother who digs holes? Doug.
Hopefully he uses a spade.
Gary, it's a family show. You got to keep it tidy. So Scotty McLaughlin wins the Australian Touring Car Championship. What I found amazing was that Van Gisbergen in the Holden, which is modified as AF, as the kids say, outside of the rules. Apparently, if you listen to the Australians, they whinge and moan, but that's what Australians do. That sound that we have, it's not the Earth's rotating like this. It's the whining coming from Australia, because they whine about every frickin' thing. So a New Zealander
Yeah.
comes first and second in the Australian Virgin. I mean, that's
Virgin.
Virgin
Oh, yes,
sponsor
what-
the
it
thing.
was Virgin,
That
yes.
has got to be the ultimate hypocritical name
Okay,
for
cool.
Australian.
Okay.
But we're not going there. Gary, don't go there.
I won't,
because
I
there's
won't, I
fuck
won't, I
happening.
won't, I won't, I won't.
Then in Cape Town, did you say that word?
Cape Town.
I thought there was. Yeah.
I didn't
So-
say anything about. You're the one who's on about Cape. What happened in Cape Town, brother?
Some oak won, another oak retired. Every South African journalist who was there had a big self-gratification session about how fantastic they were, and they published Musa photographs. But other than that, I don't know, because I couldn't
Oh,
follow it.
we didn't get invited to
Because-
that one.
Yeah, because they said you are number 1 on the don't invite list.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
we never
So
got-
we're going to Gymkhana Grid
So that-
at the casino.
Yeah.
What's
Oh.
the casino called? If you can get that off your top of your tongue, you're doing well. Come get
The
it.
Carousel.
The carousel.
Okay. For those of you that did go to WRX, we hope you all enjoyed it. It was a great event. It's good to have international
it
sport.
great, Gary?
Because it's good to have international sport on our soil.
But
Because
the Oaks bitched and moaned. They said there's too much dust. They said the track wasn't so fantastic. The one Oak bitched and moaned because their cars couldn't.
And
They
cars
moaned.
arrived like, no.
I'll tell you, But you know what? What I do acknowledge
Yeah.
is that those cars are marvels at what they do. And what I did dig is the frog, Sebi Loeb, who's also going to do Dakar in a private Peugeot. That thing's as works
In a pub.
Peugeot. Gary, the story is that Peugeot pull out of motorsport and they go home and they sulk and they do other stuff. And Sebi Loeb is driving a private Peugeot in Dakar. That thing's as factory as you'll get. I think it's absolutely magnificent. There was a bit of talking about Dakar and some news that wasn't news. And can I just say this to anybody who wants to spread a story? If you think you know the story, and if somebody says to you, "Oh, did you hear that XYZ equals 1, 2, 3?" Check your sources. We've got a rule that we only break news if, number one, our gut says it, kind of, that sort of makes sense. But if we've got 3 independent sources,
Yes.
not mates who sit around in the pub, get hammered and all talk the same cock, and then come and repeat it to you in 3 different phone calls, that doesn't qualify.
No.
And they can't all be from the same geographical location. So out of Europe, we get the story. Anyway, it didn't happen, so it's my daughter has, and then what happened?
Your daughter,
Nothing.
your daughter,
Yeah.
or your daughter-in-law,
My binky.
has just decided to like Ali B.
That's because
And just before,
she knows one of the stars of the show.
and just before you go on, this is a workshop I really would like to get to, and we got to get a hold of him to make it. Neil Woodridge, thank you very much for joining us and watching us.
But that's in deepest.
Yeah. I don't know how we're ever going to do it, Squire, but we have to get into your workshop and talk about your race cars.
Gary,
I've
been there.
Well, I haven't.
Yeah,
So
I know, but it
this
was
is a
such
half
long,
and half.
It was such a long time ago, I forgot about it.
But Neil Woodridge, thank you for watching. And we got some crazy people that watch us. I mean, the Van der Lindes watch us.
Talking about Van der Linde,
Yeah. Mr. Schechter, the fastest man in South Africa, watches us.
Sheldon, we saw your overall. Was it Sheldon or Kelvin's overall? It's about
Sheldon.
this big.
Yeah. We
It's
saw
like
we saw his mini overall.
Yeah, no,
No, not as a mini car.
overall.
A
It's like-
a small overall.
It's about this
Yeah.
high, and that was in his 9th season of racing, and he was
Yeah.
only 8 years old.
Yeah.
So Sheldon wins the Sean Edwards Foundation Best Under 21 Driver in the SRO series. So Stefan Rattle organization, all the GD series all over the world, and he wins this, which is number one. It's hell of a prestige that a South African world domination, Pinky, wins the series. Plus, it's acknowledgement from an organizer that this kid from just down the road in Drainfern.
Danefern.
Do you know? I know it's Drainfern.
Just 'cause there's a pipe
There's
that
a
runs
Musa
through.
drain that runs through. That's why they call it Drainfern. Why else would they? If it was Danefern,
Well, man, he's going to log on
that's
now
okay,
and he's
no,
going
that's
to and he's
fine.
going to give us
that's
hectic
fine. We can go.
nonsense.
We can have a, because Fourways is the home of fart clubs, and we can have a fart. Because
Fart
that's
club?
what we do in Fourways.
Yeah.
We fart and we drive. We got held up today in the traffic behind a Golf GDI in Fourways. That's because there was a pebble in the road and the oak had to slow down to drive over it because it was slammed to the thing. Graham Nathan must have done the conversion. So I was talking about Sheldon winning the Sean Edwards Foundation, but I think that
Just by the
let's
way,
just back up.
just
Do
by
you
the
know
way-
who Sean Edwards was?
I have a vague idea, but I'm not really sure. So rather give us
Okay,
the
your
facts
story
because
first.
he unfortunately had a bad accident and,
No,
it,
no,
and
no,
it
no,
wasn't
no,
in a race.
Not Sean, but no, you were saying, and just by the way,
No, I've forgotten that already.
Gary,
Focus.
watch my eyes.
Focus.
Focus, Johnny. Focus.
You see the lip he gives me,
You
huh?
see what I've got to work
And I'm going to
with?
put up with him.
This oak. Gary. I'm watching you. I can check you. Eh?
Okay.
But,
Hey.
do you want to take? Do you know? I know. I'm in Fourways, brother. It's my hometown. But, okay. So Sean Edwards.
I feel something coming on.
Sean Edwards, superstar, rising star driver, and goes for a bit of a in Queensland Raceway. They have a bit of a customer
Queensland is in
event.
Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
Some call it Shitsville, but I don't know why. But anyway, so they're in Australia, and he's doing this drive around, and he's a passenger in a car teaching somebody to drive, and they go off the road, they hit the barrier, and the angle is just the angle that causes the problem, and he ends up not getting out of the car, and he dies. And so now his family have started a foundation to recognize best young drivers. And Gary, it goes to the discussion we had earlier today about safety in race cars.
Yeah.
And never underestimate safety. Don't. There are a couple of things you mustn't do. Don't buy fake stuff for racing. Don't buy clones. If the price of a safety item, a crash helmet, a seat belt,
an overall,
a forward impact restraint device, as we were told today, if it sounds too cheap, it is too cheap. Only buy your race safety equipment from reputable outlets. And it's not just because we might or might not have associations with them. Don't buy cheap cuck from any arsehole. Excuse me. I know it's a family show, but I don't know any other way.
No, but we don't need to lose drivers and people unnecessarily.
And when do you know what? You know why they gave us a fork?
To keep the paper store.
I was going to say a fork enough, but then some people might say. Anyway, so don't buy cheap safety stuff. And whenever you're in a car going fast, take your safety absolutely seriously.
How's it to Terry Walford? Nice of you to join us. Brett Garland, thanks for dialing in. And Anthony Still, I'm glad you liked our comment about safety products. And I will answer your earlier questions a bit later tonight when I get onto my computer. But we really do appreciate your support. And you guys, if you acknowledge that these things can go wrong, that's awesome, because that means you can spread the word. No fake products in racing.
Take your safety seriously. And when you get to a news, and the funny thing is, Gary, very shortly, in about 35 days, we enter a new year and all time expiry safety products expire.
That's right.
So when the Oaks arrive at their first race and they get bitch slapped by the marshals or by the scrutineers, say to them, take a hike, your helmet or whatever is out of date, and they go, and they whine. Whoever whines about there being just not getting approval from scrutineering safety equipment, say to them, you've got one chance to get it right. Don't screw it up. Don't screw with your life. Okay, so that's enough for that.
Next.
Then next,
yeah,
the W Series.
The W Series.
I find incredibly discriminating,
now
because you must now have a complete new series.
Yeah, and they all race for free
based on a physical attribute.
Okay, now I got to hear this one. What physical attribute?
Well, there's a couple of them, but there's normally two at the top that are requirements for.
Are we going to tell you about what W stands for?
Formula W, Series W, what W Racing, Formula W, is Formula Woman. So there's a huge debate, and I'm going to sit. On the one hand, I find it despicable that we need to discriminate and take years of hard work of the woman who worked really, really hard. Who was the first woman to win a Formula One race, Gary? South African connection. Desiree Wilson. What was the racetrack? Brands Hatch. What was the car? Another South African connection. Jody Scheckter's Wolf Formula One racing car. It's a mine of information. I don't know what's happened, Gary. The stuff's coming out. So anyway, so now we've got a Formula W, and they are ecstatic because this is, we discussed it a while ago, formula to promote women driving in Formula One cars or driving in motorsport. So they've got some old Formula 3 cars that they're kind of half modified, and basically the series is for free, and you apply please and you can go and race for it. There are a couple of things that point my feelings in another way. One of them is that Alexander Wirtz is the head adjudicator of the selection committee. Now Alexander is no dummy, and if he's there, then that gives it a certain amount of respect, and I think it's absolutely magnificent. By the way, his kids are racing in Brazil. It's the Rock World Championship of karting in Brazil. South Africans are doing really well. Neil Stephen, the old man. The funny thing is, the
Neil
old
Stephen
man,
or Michael Stephen?
Michael Stephen. Michael Stephen from Gary.
From Port Elizabeth.
From Peabot. That's where like the.
And Margado was the other one.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing so well. But anyway, so South Africans are there. We'll know what happens later. So
they've been in all the practices so far this whole week, because today's qualifying, and we'll get that information to you guys later. But this week, the whole time, in free practice or open practice, or whatever they call it, the guys have been based in the top 5. So 3 South Africans. We rule!
So Tasman Pepper, Fabian Lance, and Ivana Setanish have been selected
They're,
to
the,
go
they,
through
they,
to
they're in the top
the
50.
South Africans for the W Series. And then we're going to claim Naomi Schiffer. But she's entered under, she claims she's South African when it suits her. Now she's Belgian. I mean, like,
Yeah, but she has a Swiss father, South African mother, and she's born in South Africa.
so did Adrian Zaug, and he always claimed he was South African. So, hey.
Yeah, but Adrian's a boy. He's one of the
You
boys.
see, these chicks want preferential treatment. Anyway, talking about chicks, there's one woman I know who can tame the wildest of wild in the world. And
who's
going
that?
back to Dagmar Roots, Reggie's wife. So you know Reggie's doing off-road, off-road boat racing.
Isn't he the guy that lives down there at the coast that has his little spaniels or something, or dogs
Yeah,
or
like-
whatever?
Reggie does great work for dogs because dogs mostly are better than people and don't misuse your animals. And if you find somebody who's misusing an animal, beat them over the head with a club. So Reggie and Dagmar, Reggie started
Reggie
doing this
went
rubber duck racing.
Off-road racing.
Off-
Off-road racing, yeah. It's
Off-
off-road.
it's
It's nowhere
off-
near road.
It's off-road for boats.
Completely.
And he's been, and I think it's so great that finally Dagmar has got to navigate for him.
Yeah.
Don't you just love a chick telling Reggie, slow down, go faster?
I can
go
just
left,
picture
go
it.
right. It
Re-
took them
Reggie-
a bucket load of training.
Reggie, let
Anyway,
let us know when the instruction is wrong. What do you do? That's all I want to know.
panic because he ain't going to get fed for a while. So anyway, they win their class in their warm-up race and they're doing the Orgullis, and I think it's absolutely magnificent. What else happened, Gary? So Toyota Go and Launch. This is my hands-free kit for my phone. I mean my mic,
Your mic.
so I can talk. Because I still think that somewhere in me, I'm half Italian. Because I like to talk with my hands.
Meaning if the hands are not moving, you can't express yourself.
You got one chance to get it right. Okay, pa. So
Hey, what's this double thing?
So talking about double thing and
Yeah.
all of that, how's Tasha's doing in the Vale? Anyway, that's another story. So at the WRX event, Toyota finally released their Bucky, the latest version. Well, I was going to say evolution. I think it's an evolution.
It is an evolution.
China. So they launched their Bucky. Now my motor car, we spoke a while ago about the three tenets of racing cars. The lower center of gravity, lower polar moment of inertia.
This is the maths and science part of our show.
Because kids, maths and
Science
science
counts.
If you can, triangles and circles rule. Geometry is magnificent. Never give it up. And look up Mr. Newton. He's probably the besterest oak in the entire world. So the theory with this car is in order to make a car nimble and make it move through the air or through the ground and change direction, and drivers, when their navigators don't do what they want, they're going along here and the navigator says go there, and then make a decision. So one of the things that Mr. Newton taught us about, Gary, was inertia,
Yeah.
which means that something will carry on doing whatever it's doing until somebody does something to it.
Or until something stops its direction or
Well, you've got to do something
interferes
to
with
it.
it. Yeah.
So basically, you and I will carry on talking and forever until
yes.
somebody says
Says
stop.
stop, yeah.
And the ease of saying stop.
Okay, now what are you doing? Cell
Oh,
phone
no.
plate, pepper cellar. Oh, okay, fine. No, it's not going to, and you're going to drop it just now and it's going to break.
And I'll be the Murid.
Yeah,
Okay, so the ease of the ability of something to change direction
yes.
or to respond to an input, or the
Okay.
difficulty, is inertia. So basically, a fat blort who's just blorting along on the couch, you've got to kick his ass hell of a hard to get him to move.
Mm-hmm.
But a skinny little, like a stick, a rake, they can move fast. So
Okay.
it's about weight, but more
Ultimately,
importantly,
it's the distribution of the weight.
Gary, you listen, eh?
Yes.
I'm glad you see he's focusing. So if you have something like this and you want the car to move quickly and work this out, take your weights. For those of you in Boksburg and Fourways, when you're doing your exercise, your arms, because no, you don't do legs, brother. It's arms and chest, eh? Good.
Okay, cool.
Take your bells like this and try and move it around, and they're difficult to start moving, and then they keep moving. It's like an avalanche. It's like a woman arguing with you. It takes a while for them to start, but once they start,
Listen, the women are going to come and give us lip now.
okay, that's all right. So it's if you change direction and the weight is all outside there, it's murava difficult. But put the weight in here, and then you can change direction and you can go. So that's polar moment of inertia. It's about where, if something's moving around like this, so it's got an axle over here, it's about the distance and where the weight is centered. And in a racing car, you generally want it as low as possible. But Gary, for every good thing,
There are bad things.
well, not so good things. We don't talk about good and bad. We talk about not their trade-offs.
Oh, okay. So
One of the things,
Yeah.
and okay, so let's just go to polar moment of inertia. So what do they do in this Toyota? And this, we would have loved to have shown you 2 weeks ago when we were in Hall Speed's workshop what really was going on. So I'm trying to unwind the movie I've got in my head because Glenn was getting super twitchy. He wouldn't allow us on the floor with a rolling camera. But he doesn't know that I've got a photographic memory. So what they did in the beginning, just after, those couple of days,
Yeah.
in the beginning of racing car of Toyotas, you've got a bucky that's about this long, because everything's about this long. So
why
you
don't
got
you use the plate?
so you got a bucky over here, and then they put an engine over here. And Gary, have you got something else that can be a gearbox? No, that's too big for a gearbox. What about a chip? Lean over there and give me a chip, Gary.
There's a gearbox.
Okay, that's a gearbox, and then there's an axle over here. So when this car arrives back in the day, when it arrived in the corner, you've got a lot of weight over here, and the gearbox was actually attached to the engine.
Yes.
And then there was a link prop shaft over here, and there was another axle over here, and all of that sort of stuff. So Gary's chip is now the prop shaft. So it's a bit long.
Hey, no
So
eating on the
give you
show.
another 2 chips. So
Why are
the
you
thing
hungry?
is, it's a 4-wheel drive. So we've got to have
Okay,
a
there's
prop
one for you.
shaft. No, that goes from the back to the front. And we need that one, and we need these 2. So that's kind of the layout that we had.
Tilt it like this so people can see. Slightly.
But if I
you can.
tilt it like
No, just slightly.
that, then woo. Okay, so dudes, just use
That's
your
what happens
imagination.
when you don't fasten things down.
So we've got an axle over here, another axle over here, an engine and a gearbox. So this car is fundamentally nose heavy.
You don't mind if I eat one of the drive shafts?
They're cold, and have some salt on it, Gary. How does that feel?
Lunch, guys,
'Cause
lunch.
salt is good for you because it keeps the energy up. And Baba catering department's on their way out. Thank you very much. So now, this car, hold on, there's our engine. This car's very nose heavy, which is good and not so good because once it starts, it takes a while to turn, and then it turns, and then it plows a little bit. So what do you do then? You decide, well, guys, tell you what, let's just move everything a little bit further backwards. So
But in the process of doing that, they also
no,
do-
hold on, Gary.
Oh.
There's an evolution. So they move it backwards a little bit. And this is, they start referring to as the mid-mount engine. But what some people understand as mid-mount and what Glenn Hall understands as mid-mount are not
Two
so
different
mid-mount.
things.
So everybody else looks at it, oh my, but check the mid-mount engine, brother, because it's moved back a little bit. Glenn decides, hold on a minute. Mid equals
middle.
middle, brother.
Yeah.
So the front, imagine the bottom of the windscreen of your bucky. The front of the engine is behind the bottom of the windscreen.
That's correct. In
It's-
other words, it's backward.
It's musa far backwards.
Yeah.
So it sits over here. So there's the engine over here in the middle of the bucky. And then what do? Well, you haven't got such a lot of space there. So in Gary's thing here, and you need a hell of a short prop shaft to go to the back. And you put a tiny little prop shaft in. Imagine there are a whole lot more chips. And you've now got a bit of a long prop shaft that goes from the back of the gearbox up to the front. So this thing truly is a mid-engine vehicle.
Correct.
One of the issues that they had was the packaging of getting the floor, because they now had to move things around, because
That's right.
in the first evolution of this car, the driver's feet were too far up, sitting very much like a Formula One driver,
Yeah.
which caused stuff. So they had to move the driver's feet down to get the driver in a more normal carriage
so
position.
the body can pump blood and everything else up and down, unlike a fighter jet which has got stuff, G-force straps.
So they did all of that. But in order to move the floor down, you end up with the floor being, I don't know, 25 millimeters from the engine. This is where computer-aided design comes in. And you can't do computer-aided design if you haven't done maths and science. So kids, stay at school and learn maths and science because it makes you betterer, fasterer, and coolerer. And all the hot chicks like maths and science people. So they do this, they skin this thing. The packaging is tight.
Very, very tight, yeah.
Gary. So the question we ask, how do you change the spark plugs? Easy, it takes us 40 minutes. We drop the engine. Because you can't, there's no bonnet. Because the bonnet actually is like inside the car. So you drop the engine out the bottom.
Inside the cabin of the car.
They loosen the engine, and then 3 of their Chinas, because they don't have small men there. There's some proper Fris Oaks that eat lots of biltong and they pick the car up, roll the car backwards, and that's how they change the spark plugs or do any stuff on the engine. But it's also caused a bit of an issue because with moving all the weight back,
Yeah.
you take the weight off the front tires,
Yeah.
so the initial bite is not there. So it's going to be hell of a interesting when they start racing and how they go for Dakar. And that, kids, is the end of today's science lesson.
Just something else, just quickly. And thanks to Terry Walford for this one. Did you know that Sean Edwards' father,
Guy
Edwards, pulled Niki Lauda out of his car when Niki Lauda had that horrible flaming crash?
I did.
I'm just, because, our fans tell us things and I'm just helping the fans to stay tuned in.
You said that was Terry who sent that in.
Yeah, Terry Walford.
I want Terry to tell us what car it was and who was the sponsor.
All right, Terry, you got time to type, and then we'll just say how's it to Ricky. Hey, brother. Nice having you online. Brett Robinson, glad you enjoyed WRX. And now this weekend, you can watch me and him at Jacana Grid. We'll be live.
That's where they only allow us there because they realize that. Anyway,
they realize that Brett needs to see the show.
So that was a Bucky turn in, weight back, production. Our research department has been phenomenal recently.
I noticed. Somebody's been doing some work.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to give that. I just want a big shout out to production and our research department, because research has also come up with a couple of other South Africans. South Africa is taking over America.
We are?
Damn straight. Tomorrow, the onslaught begins because we say young Stuart White. I truly can say young Stuart White. This oak can't even drive his dad to the airport. He's too young. He hasn't got a driver's license. So that's a bit slack. So Stuart White wins the South African Formula 1600 Championship. And part of that is a prize of lots of cash. Well, in motorsport, lots of cash in normal terms.
In South African terms.
But in motorsport terms, a little bit of cash.
Yeah.
But more than that, the opportunity to go and drive, test, and start the road to Indy, which used to be the Mazda Road to Indy, gives him an entry level. It gets him noticed in America.
Correct.
Which you need to. Now, I just got to say something about Stuart White, who, when you talk to him and interview him and talk to him about what a car is doing, he is incredibly professional and consummate with
on the feedback you get from him.
Well,
or the info.
The interaction that you've got. You ask him a question, and there's so many people. I just want to thank my sponsors and it was like fantastic. And it's a doff interview. Stuart has got an engaging, intelligent, information adding style of it.
That's right. Yeah.
He is magnificent to talk to. He is an interviewer's dream job. So from a media point of view. Look, the guy grafts hard at it. He does. And he's a ginger, which helps. I mean.
Yeah, but he spent a lot of time, and his bit of his other international experience and things that have come to him. You know what it must be like to try and explain to a French engineer when you don't speak French about what the car is doing. So I think Stu has learned a couple of tricks in that area.
No, he's absolutely phenomenal. I believe he's got a whole bunch of skill. I believe he's got the a good mix of responsibility and
Yeah.
speed.
Yeah.
So he's not super fast. Like, Maldonado didn't have that mix. He was super quick, but he could crash. Stewart is super quick, and I haven't seen a whole lot of crashes there. In fact, I haven't seen one
Ricky's
crash.
chirping you.
That's okay.
He
What's
says
Ricky saying?
production never seems to disappoint.
Production are awesome.
Yeah.
Ricky, here's our sushi pond.
Yeah.
We're having sushi
Right here.
afterwards. Just haul
Just
them
thought we'll
out.
let you know.
Haul them out
And
and,
then
shout.
we've got the world's famous photographer online,
Which one?
Paul Bedford.
Is he the one we like? Because
Yes.
there's another Paul
No,
that
no,
I
no,
don't like.
don't go there. Don't go there. This is our
Is
our
he-
buddy.
we like this Paul.
Yeah.
How's it, Paul? I tell you what, I've seen some of the pics that you took from WRX. Awesome stuff. Keep it up, bro.
Not only
Flying
that,
dust.
we actually going to try and get together with him, and we're going to look at our photographers make a living out of motorsport.
That's an oxymoron. Because I don't know of many South African photographers who make a living out of it. Some of them try, and it's not to say their work is not bad. Their work is magnificent. But when you go to somebody and say, listen, bro, I want you to pay like $3,000 for this photograph, Mike says, I can get it from my cousin at like not so $3,000. It's difficult. But a good photograph
It's worth 1,000 words. Paul-
just 1,000.
Paul, don't stop your great work. We love it, brother.
I truly admire his work. It goes back to our opening of my butt, who decided, bought a camera and took photographs, taught me a shload. So
Did you know Paul was very close to your brother
I do. And you know what? Of all the photographers,
in the whole of South Africa?
Paul showed up at the end.
Yeah.
Good man.
Thank you, brother.
Good man. Truly. Right. Karting World Championships, we've discussed that. It's
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Brazil.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
Max
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Border 100, 15th of December. There's other notes. Oh, what are they doing in Dakar? You were supposed to ask me that. You missed your cue.
Well, you did the Toyota thing, but I know that the rest of the boys.
Oh, do you know what the other cool thing about
What?
the Toyota is?
What?
Do you remember when we were in the shop and we were talking to Glenn and we said, oh, we want to take that photograph over there, and you
Yeah.
see the car with a Toyota on the front.
Yeah.
And he had a little...
He's fit. Don't do that.
I'm not supposed to see that. So the other thing that you'll know that it's the latest spec car because it's a Dorf, you don't know that the T badge stands for Toyota. You've got to spell it out, Toyota. So when you see the letters all written out in the grille, Toyota, bro.
Oh, okay. Instead of the normal badge
Instead of
that's
the
on the
badge.
front of the Hilux. Yeah.
Because the one was an emoji and the other one's English.
Good.
Right. So, Gary,
You know something?
I can carry on
I know.
forever.
When you and I sit down and we do these things and we're having such a joy and so much fun, and everybody out there interacting with us, thank you very much. Francois Pinar, Paul Bedford, Reinhard Gelderblom, Robbie Press. We love you guys being online, and thank you, because if it wasn't for all of you watching us, we wouldn't do what we do. Now
Thank you very much for
Now-
your support.
Now, you know, I got to go and do what I got to go
You
and
do what you do and I'll do what I
and
do.
you do what you do. So, from me, I'm out here. Watch tomorrow night. We will be live. And I will be live Friday and Saturday from Jacana Grid. So, we'll see you over the next couple of hours.
Sure, Gary. No pressure, hey? So, where there might be a dearth of motor racing, local racing right now, but we are gearing up to be, there's some really, really cool news coming up, building up for Dakar. We're going to do our Dakar thing every day at 6 o'clock in the evening. We'll carry on with Waved Yellow. I just want to say to all of you, your support, your comments, your queries, your interactions, and more than that, some of the phone calls that we get. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great evening. Keep the shiny stuff up, and when you go, go big. Then go home. Cheers.